is time to add a new animal to the Elm Hill City Zoo, the dromedary camel. Today we'll be actually changing one of the older habitats in the Elm Hill City Zoo. I wasn't a huge fan of the old red kangaroo habitat that we had near the entrance to the zoo, and I decided to change it into the dromedary camel habitat. Don't worry though, the kangaroos will still be included in the zoo. We'll build a new habitat for them in the future, but right now it is time to focus on our new dromedary camels. Hello guys, this is Cesar Creates, and welcome back to my channel. It is time for another episode of the Elm Hill City Zoo, and this is one of those more special episodes, because today we'll be completely changing one of the older habitats in the zoo that I didn't really like and I wanted to change for quite a long time. And I am talking here about the red kangaroo habitat that we've built so long ago and that is located next to the entrance to our zoo. So at the beginning of the video you guys could see me completely destroying this habitat, and we'll be building something from scratch, and this will be the dromedary camel habitat. And I am so excited to finally build for them because I wanted to add them to the zoo ever since the Arid Animal Pack has been released. So finally we'll have dromedary camels in the Elm Hill City Zoo. Now, why I decided to do that all? To celebrate the 100 episodes of the Elm Hill City Zoo, I recorded a special episode where I completely rebuilt the first habitat that we've built for the zoo, the grey seal habitat, and in that video I told you guys that this is not the only habitat that I want to rebuild, because there are some of those habitats in the zoo that I don't really like or are not too suiting for certain areas of the zoo, etc. And I have a list of the habitats that I sort of want to change, rebuild or improve, and the red kangaroo habitat was definitely one of those. I just didn't like it, and I thought that the red kangaroos are not really like a typical entrance animal, especially in Europe. I haven't been to many international zoos, but in here they are definitely not one of those. I remember that I decided to add the kangaroos to the zoo because I got so many comments from you guys asking for a kangaroo habitat, and I decided to do it. But the placement and the general look of the habitat was just not speaking to me. That's why I decided to change it all up, especially that we now have a little Australian section in the zoo where we have the wombats, where we have the wallabies, emus, and the whole wonders of Oceania, and we'll be changing and we'll be moving the kangaroos into that specific area of the zoo, so it all just makes more sense and all the Australian animals will be located in one place. This is actually so typical for real life zoos, to move the animals around the zoo, to, for example, build a new habitat for a certain animal and then another species can live in its older habitat. So this is something that we'll do. Today we are completely demolishing the red kangaroo habitat, which is always a bit hard for me to do because I remember that I of course worked on it. I put my time and effort to build this habitat, but I know that this one that we'll build today will be much better and will be more suiting. So at first you could see me completely destroying it, and now we are building a new habitat for the animal that I think makes much more sense for this specific area of the zoo, the dromedary camel. The dromedary camels are basically domesticated animals. That's why I think that a lot of guests and a guest flow near the entrance won't bother them too much. And also we have a desert house that we built a long time ago that is located just next to this habitat, so it all makes sense. We have the Gemsbok nearby, we have the fennec foxes. Also behind this habitat there's elephants and rhinos, a lot of African animals in this area, so I just think that this is a perfect spot for the dromedary camels. And I also wanted to have a pretty nice Habitat as the first habitat that our guests will probably see when they will be entering, especially that the tour of the Elm Hill City Zoo, like the update tour, is coming. It is very near, so please be patient. I know that a lot of you guys are asking for it. There will be only 2 more speed build episodes of this series, and then I will do the tour, and that's why I wanted to have like this entrance area a bit more sorted. So the tour will begin with a pretty habitat for the dromedary camels, not a habitat that I'm not a huge fan of for the Red Kangaroos, and this is basically the explanation why this episode today is simply happening, why I decided to record that. I know that some of you are probably waiting for the reptile house and for adding the last reptiles to it. It will of course happen soon. In the next episode we'll be adding the last reptile, and after that I'll be doing like a huge finishing of the reptile house, and after this we'll have an update tour for everyone asking for new episodes, for everyone asking for the tour, just to give you a little update of the things that are going on. I know that I am not too consistent with uploads recently. Believe me that I am doing my best, but there's just so much going on lately. It's summertime, we have an amazing weather, I want to enjoy that to the fullest. That's why I'm not spending too much time at home, especially that it is so hot in here. And my computer is not making it any better because it is basically working really hard when I'm working on the Elm Hill City Zoo, so of course the temperature is even higher when I'm sitting next to it. I also have been to some music festivals, I have been to some short trips, I have traveled to Warsaw many times to meet my friends. I basically have those 2 fighting personalities. One of them is me just enjoying this laid back time at home, like chilling, playing Planet Zoo with a cup of tea and just this chill time, and I love it. But my other personality also loves to go out, meet people, meet new people, spend times at restaurants, bars and so on, and those are really fighting lately, especially during the summertime. I think that the going out one is a bit winning. And of course going out means less time for YouTube, and also building this habitat was interrupted by some things, especially the announcement of the Planet Coaster 2. I had to take a break to record my reaction to the trailer, to share with you guys all the news. I'm so excited for Planet Coaster 2. Even though I know nothing about amusement parks, I just love water parks, and I know that I'll have a blast building them. As I told you in the announcement video, that was a flop, but more on that maybe later. I basically don't know why everyone got such an amazing views under this video, and I was so excited for it, and I did my effort and so on, and I have 2,000 views under that video. I sometimes don't get YouTube, but I am not mad. Maybe, you know, I'm just known for my zoo content, not for Planet Coaster, but maybe that will change in the future. We will see. And also the other thing was that Rudi Rennkamel actually asked me to tour his Finnish zoo Sicily. So in case you guys haven't seen that, the link to the video is down in the description and on the screen. I really love this zoo, and what a coincidence that while building a habitat for the dromedary camel, the camel himself contacted me and asked me for the tour of his zoo. So that was kind of funny, but of course he didn't know that I was building this habitat, so a huge coincidence. I have to name one of the camels in this habitat Rudi for sure. Okay, but enough about all of this. Let's talk about the habitats. Let's talk about those magnificent animals. I just love the dromedary camels so much. Of course, before I started building this habitat, I looked for some inspiration online, and also I went through the photos of my zoo visits and so on. And of course, all the habitats for the dromedary camels are very not inspiring, boring. There's nothing in there, just some sand, like very sparse plants and some trees with tree guards. maybe some rocks and some logs and also a shelter, and that's basically it. And I wanted to build something more special. That's why I just came up with this idea by my own. I didn't use any inspiration, maybe for a shelter. The shelter is slightly inspired by my visit to Zurich Zoo and by the shelter for the Bactrian camels in the zoo, but more about this when we'll be actually building a shelter. So the entire habitat was basically my idea. It looks a bit fancy for the dromedary camels, but I still think that it is sort of realistic looking. Maybe in a high budget zoo such a habitat for them could exist. Something that I actually liked about the red kangaroo habitat that we had in here was a terrace that the guests had to enter to simply see the kangaroos. The whole habitat was a bit sunken into the ground, so when they were entering this terrace they had this like really cool view into the entire habitat, and I wanted to keep that, but of course I had to rebuild the entire terrace to make it more suitable for my skills that I have right now. Later I used simply an in-game path. Right now I just made a piece by piece terrace with the whole surrounding of the habitat that is all custom, and keeping to this aesthetic that we did. For some of the habitats that we have a very overgrown and lush like a surrounding of the habitat, and the actual habitat is a bit more dry, is a bit more empty, mainly because those are the dromedary camels and a lot of habitats for them in zoos are simply stylized to look like a desert, so there is a lot of sand in there and not too many plants, but also because they would simply eat all the plants. They eat a lot, and I don't think that they are very picky when it comes to different plants that they would eat, so that's why the habitat couldn't have too many plants. But I love this contrast. This is something what we did, for example, for the Adax antelope, for the Dama gazelles, and for other animals like this. Because this habitat is located next to one of the main paths that is leading like straight into the central part to the zoo, there will be probably a lot of people just crossing it, like walking past it. That's why I wanted to add some trees and bushes just like along this path, so that the guests won't be bothering the camels too much, but they will still get those sneak peeks of the camels where they are passing. You will see that in the cinematic shots by the end of this video. Of course, in the speed build I didn't include everything because otherwise this video would be like 2 hours. I just showed you like pieces of the planting outside, and also doing like a beginning of the curbing, beginning of the fences, and for example this habitat will be surrounded by the concrete walls, so I also just did a sneak peek so you guys could see how I did it, but I wouldn't include everything because it is just copying the same things over and over again, and it gets repetitive and really boring really quick. That's why I prefer just to give you those like a sneak peeks of how I actually do it. Again, if something is not understandable, just leave me questions in the comments. I can always improve something in my future videos to show you more or to show you less. Maybe there is some parts of the videos that are a bit more boring. Tell me down in the comments. I want to improve if there is something not right with my videos, other than my very chaotic commentary, because I'm afraid that there's nothing I can do about this. So as I just told you, the whole front part of the habitat will be surrounded by the concrete wall. I left those small spaces between all those individual concrete pieces for it to look like grouts. I think that this is an English word for it. I really like this look. I actually took it from my visit to the Tier Park Berlin because I saw it in several habitats. I did something very similar like this in the Dama gazelle habitat and you guys really liked it, and I wanted to repeat that here. I'll also add electric wire alongside the whole concrete barrier because both to keep the camels in and just to be sure that they will be able to jump out, although I don't think that they will be able to because it is quite high, but also to prevent them from eating the plants that are growing on this like moat moat or anything that is surrounding this whole habitat. In the back, we'll actually use the fences, and we'll use the fences from the new barnyard animal pack, the metal fence that I really like, and I didn't have a chance to use it yet, and I thought that for the camels it is just perfect. So this is something that we'll use in the back of the habitat. Also behind the fence we will add a lot of different plants for the whole background of it. I am still not too sure what I will put behind this enclosure, because there is still quite some space in there. Maybe if there will be a smaller animal added in the future to the game, I'll end up placing it here, or I'll just fill the space with some plants. I don't know, but what I wanted to say is that I made sure that there's a nice view from the when the guests are looking into this habitat for this whole big huge red brick building that is behind the habitat. This is our rhino and elephant house that houses the white rhinos and African elephants, and I still really like this building, and I didn't want to have it completely covered as it was before with the kangaroos. So now it is really more exposed, and you get those really nice vistas for this building that I think are very important in this game to make it look a bit more interesting, to have this interest point somewhere in the zoo so that the guests sort of know where they are heading next, or there's something interesting in the back that they want to see, that they want to go to. I always like to do those things, and that's why I wanted to make this building a bit more visible. When I did the first rebuilding of the habitat in the Elm Hill City Zoo, this was the seals, as I told you guys already. If you haven't seen that video, I will put the link down in the description and on the screen. A lot of you really enjoyed it. I had such an amazing comments under that video. This is one of my favorite videos actually that I ever uploaded to YouTube. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go and check it out. But I got a lot of questions of you asking which habitats I'll be actually rebuilding, if I have a list and so on. Of course I have one, and I plan to reveal it during the tour when we'll be actually looking at those habitats. So if you guys are curious, definitely check out the tour when it will be finally out. I think that it is a perfect time right now to introduce new sponsors of the habitats in the Elm Hill City Zoo, because we have 3 new sponsors. Thank you guys so much. This always means so much to me and to our zoo, of course, and to the animals that you decided to sponsor. So first up, we have Adorov, who decided to sponsor the habitat for the European bisons or wisons. Thank you so much. This is your plaque. The second new sponsor is Brandon Arnold, who decided to sponsor the newest habitat for the Cuvier's dwarf caimans in the reptile house. Congratulations, here is your plaque. And the third sponsor is Mox Evie, if I am pronouncing this right, who decided to sponsor one of my personal favorite habitats in the Elm Hill City Zoo, the Przewalski horse habitat. Thank you guys so much. Again, this means the world. And if any of you watching would like to also become a sponsor of the habitat in the Elm Hill City Zoo, all you need to do is click the join button down below, become a member of the channel with any of the tiers, and leave me a comment under any of my videos which habitat you would like to sponsor, and I will create your plaque and I will show you it in the next episode of the Elm Hill City Zoo, and of course during the tour that we'll have soon. When it comes to the habitats, not only the surroundings, but the actual habitats, what I wanted to do is create like a deserty looking habitat for the camels. I thought it absolutely would make sense. So I didn't want to go too overboard with plants, with different details and so on. I wanted to make it look like a piece of a desert, like a dune, but still something that would be suitable for the temperate climate and would look like a man-made desert or something. So there will be some plants, but they will be more like dry, eaten by the camels and so on. There will be a lot of different rocks. I used my piles that you can find in the workshop, both the small ones and the bigger ones. What I also did was add a lot of different dead trees and logs, because this is something that I saw many zoos use for the camels. They are probably grazing on them or something for some entertainment. When it comes to the rocks, what I also forgot to mention is that I focused a lot of the rocks around the habitat to make it even harder for the camels to come up to those concrete walls. I also added a lot of decals, especially the moss decals. I like to change their colors into more sandy, so it sort of looks like more like a sand textures on the ground. So the sand is not so perfectly like flat or anything, it is more textured. I always like this look, and this is something that I went for. And again, as I told you, a lot of different dry bushes, plants, and stuff like this. And I also added some trees in there, but I had to use some tree guards because the camels are known for eating, for example, bark of the trees. That's why I used the tree guards, but I reused the ones that I've built for the giraffes. I think that the colors of it and their simply structure, this is like a more sturdy one, like made from those bit thicker wooden logs, would just make sense for those strong and quite big animals like dromedary camels. I of course added some in-game enrichment items for the camels so that they have something to do in this habitat. And I also used a cool trick that I think I saw Eben did for the first time. It was actually adding the tires from the new Barnyard Annual Pack over this rubber pillar, like this rubbing pillar for the animals. If you will place them, the size of the tires is simply like more or less the same as the rubbing pillar, so the animals will still use it and it will look super realistic. I think that the zoos will more likely use the tires for the animals than the specially made rubber pillars, so it looks a bit more realistic. And as you could see in the intro, the camel can actually use it and it looks phenomenal. So I really like this detail about this habitat. And after this was all done, I just had to do the shelter. The shelter was actually, I think, the most difficult thing to do, especially that, of course, the traversable area was really not it for those huge animals. I had to make sure that the entrances were big enough, so I had to do some measuring before. This is why you'll see me starting to build this shelter with some entrances already made. And then also I struggled a bit with the whole shape because, as I told you, this was inspired by the shelter from the tourist zoo. That one was way smaller, but of course I had to play with the requirements of Planet Zoo a bit that are not always ideal. I'm still not using any mods. I know that the Planet Zoo Plus mod, I think, makes the traversable area for the animals a bit more easy to work with, but I am still not using any, and in here I could use one because this shelter is a bit bigger than I wanted. But in the end, I think that for such a big herd of camels, because I think that there'll be 6 of them, it kind of had to be this big. But yeah, there's like this curved roof in this shelter, and I thought that it would be very easy to make, but I had to do like such a huge, big, like circular shape of the roof firstly to simply make this curve suitable for how big this building is. So I quite struggled with that, but of course I was able to make it because you could see it made already in the cinematics or anywhere else. The whole shelter is wooden. It has those slightly tilted planks on the facade. It also has like a shaded part that is simply outside so that the camels don't have to enter the shelter if it is for example closed for them, to have some shade if they're like tired of the sun, although I'm pretty sure that camels are pretty good with being out on the sun. If they're, for example, in the desert, they don't have any other choice. I again didn't record finishing the entire interior of the shelter. This is something that you'll be able to see in the cinematic shots by the end of the video. What I also did was build a holding pen for them so that they can be separated or held them if the habitat is cleaned or anything. I also did some backstage work behind the shelter off camera, and I just did some decorating like in between the desert house and this habitat, and also next to the education center that we have in here. And that was basically it. It was quite a lot of work, especially how that this habitat is quite huge. I wanted to give those animals a lot of space because they are huge, and I think that they deserve a lot of space to be able to roam around this like dune or deserty part of the zoo that we prepared for them. I still have some time, and I wanted to share with you guys some fun facts about the dromedary camel because I think that they are very fascinating animals. So the dromedary camels are no longer considered a wild animal. In Africa and Arabia, it is a semi-domesticated animal that free ranges but is under a control of herders. The dromedary camels are also right now native to Australia because they escaped and they are living in the wilds in Australia. And they are an invasive species. Unfortunately, they are destroying some plants and local wildlife, so I know that there's a huge problem with them in Australia. The dromedary camel is capable of drinking 100 liters of water in just 10 minutes. If they will find a water source, they can really quickly drink this water. They can tolerate water loss equal to over 30% of their body weight. Camels store fat in their hump, not water as some people think. They are born without a hump because the layer of fat does not develop until they eat solid food. Dromedary camels can browse for 6 to 8 hours every day. And unlike most mammals, a healthy camel body temperature can fluctuate between 34 degrees to almost 42. This fluctuation is important because it allows the camel to conserve water by not sweating as the environmental temperature rises. When the camels are angry or annoyed, they can spit, and it was actually added to Planet Zoo with the update that introduced the camels to the game with the Arid Animal Pack, which I think is so cool. And this is basically all when it comes to the fun facts, and this is basically all when it comes to the speed build part of this video. I must say that I really enjoyed building this. I love to build for ungulates, as you guys know, and I really love the camels. I am so happy that they were finally added to the game because the model is beautiful, and this is one of those iconic zoo animals that I think that we are missing from the very beginning of Planet Zoo. Okay guys, so this is all, and I'll meet you in a second in the cinematic shots to show you the finished habitat and to talk a bit more about it. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned. Although it is a bit hard to destroy your old work that you put your heart and soul into, I still really enjoy those rebuilds because they make me realize how much I was able to improve in this game and how much more detailed and thought out my builds have become over the years. I really love the new habitat for the dromedary camels. I think it is so much better than the one that we had for the Red Kangaroos, so I am very happy that I decided to do it and to switch things up. We will still be building for the Red Kangaroos, don't you worry guys. I really like how the new viewing terraces look. I also really like the view into the habitat that you get from the main path, like in between the trees. I think that the camels look just phenomenal in this place in the zoo, and I also really like the shelter, although it was quite a struggle to build it. The interior looks really cool, and the camels just look so nice in it. In case you don't know that, here is the location of the habitat near the entrance, so you know how important it is to me to have a nice habitat in this space because it is one of the habitats that the guests will just see when they will enter. I really love the camels in Planet Zoo, especially because of all the color variations that they have. My favorite one is definitely the piebald one that I actually have in this habitat. Okay guys, this is all that I have for you in today's video. There will be some more cinematic shots after I'll finish talking, so definitely stay tuned for them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider to subscribe to my channel if you you haven't already. Ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video like this. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and of course leave me a nice comment, tell me what you think about the new habitat. If you like to support the channel a little bit extra and become a sponsor of one of the habitats in the Elm Hill City Zoo, you can do it with the join button down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!